So today we're going to discuss how TK20 has tackled accessibility over the recent months, I guess, like maybe 6 months. We kind of always had an idea that we wanted to do it, but we've never really had the team to implement it. So again, designing without compromise. So my name is Nicole. So just to give you a little bit of background, right now TK20's product is gigantic. It's about 10 years old, 12 years old. They have designed it based on really what engineers wanted, and they've always had a front-end developer, but they've never had a design team. So our system itself is basically assessment, planning, and reporting. And if you want to read that, you can. But basically what we do is we collect information from institutions and we spit out reports. So it's kind of overwhelming, and in general, it's really the fact that you can access our system anywhere on any computer or tablet, and you can conduct either inputting information, collecting information, reporting. It can be anything from students, faculty, unit admins, property teachers. So TK20 in its briefest. So I won't stick around with that. So big providers, you just met some of our people, but the UX team has 14 crazies in total, myself including. But we have the interaction designers, which is where we've actually collected them all from your institution. You guys are awesome. Matt, Chen, and Haley, and Stephanie is our researcher. We have 2 designers. They really focus on creating a UI design, more so. And then we also have 6 UX developers, 5 of which are actually in India. And then we have our accessibility developer, which actually couldn't be here today because she's working from home. Well, lucky duck. I'm assuming you guys can, okay, you guys can't see. I can't see y'all, but whatever. So what does UX do? One of the biggest things I want to just kind of say is that UX is very new to TK20. So everything that we're doing right now is just educating people on what UX is. They've never had UX, they don't really know what it is. So the first thing that we really tackled was how to inspire the people of TK20 to understand what UX is, why we do it, and why we're here. Basically, UX was developed, probably January of last year. We started having a couple people come in. Chen is actually dates us even past from when I was here. Chen was here in the summer of 2013. So she was one of the first ones. But we really started recruiting in January. Perry joined, and then Stephanie and Matt joined shortly after. And we started hiring developers. So we redid our development team in January also. So we've only been here for about a year and a half. So in general, at TK20, no one understood UX. They didn't even know what it was. Everyone kind of just assumed that we already had it. And so it's been a really kind of uphill battle. One of the biggest things has been educating on what UX is. A lot of people in the past really thought UX was just pretty things on the page. And in the past, they actually thought the wireframes that the front-end developer was creating was the actual final design. And so there's no hierarchy, there's no structure in our current system, because they really just didn't, they thought as long as it worked, then they accomplished their task. What they didn't actually take into consideration was who is the actual user and how are they completing the task. And so right now, our system is over 2,600 pages. That's including modal, window, pop-ups, anything like that. But it's 2,600 plus, and it is absolutely almost impossible to use. You can accomplish your task, and instead of doing it in like 2 or 3 steps, we make it in 20, 30 steps. And so this UX team that we put together right now is doing a massive cleanup effort on how to make it easier for users to get through a process. Additionally, we've never actually done accessible code, accessible design, anything accessible. We had it in our back of our heads as, we probably should do something of the sorts, but we never really did it. You can actually use our system. It's 508 compliant to the point where like images have alt tags. And you can kind of tab through it, but you really can't complete almost any task on any page. So again, not really figured out, not really implemented yet. The other big thing is just all the processes that UX actually affects. And this is one of the things that we're still kind of working on at TK20 is as we go through and get more involved, people don't realize how to work with the UX team. They don't understand what we bring to the table and what can we help out with. So that's been one of the biggest battles, is just educating people on what UX is and what accessible design is. The last thing has been training. So you can talk as much as you want. You can go to meetings. You can let people know who you are, what you do. But the truth of the matter is, unless you actually get them into the room and you train them on your actual processes and what you do, it doesn't really help. TK20 isn't a giant company, but we do have 50 employees here in Austin, and we have 180 plus in India. And it's always very exciting working with both sides of the team. I think we're doing a really good job educating the people in Austin, but I don't think we're quite there in the India team yet, because they really don't know what we do or why we do it. I think the best way to explain that is the what's that movie where it's not Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, where they're changing the lady's dress to pink, to purple, to pink, to purple. They literally think that's what we're doing. Like, we get up in the morning and we wear a certain color and we're like, we feel like this today and we're going to do all these changes. And then the next day, we wear a different color shirt. We're going to make all these changes. And we don't actually, they think we just change things for how we feel. Grumpy, sad, whatever. And which is really sad, because the people in India don't see what we do in Austin. And the people in Austin actually really don't see what we do here anyways, because we're on a different floor. And so right now we're just really trying to train people on what our processes are. The fact that, Stephanie actually talks to the users, incorporates that into the design feedback. So that's Matt and Chen and Perry, they can all pull together and actually make wise choices. It's not based on how we feel, but that's how that's what that kind of perspective they have in India. So it's always very interesting. One of the biggest efforts we're going to probably make soon is actually going to India and really just getting to know everybody. So we haven't done that yet, and we should have. Agile, I'm sure you guys heard about Agile and Waterfall. This company was Waterfall driven for the first 10 years, and product management was hired in the 10th year, and they introduced the Agile methodology. So I'm sure you guys have heard that Agile has a lot of really strict people.
Are you changing the slides?
I am. Are you guys excited right now?
No, they're stuck on 14 crazies.
Oh, that's awesome. You got a really great presentation. You guys don't see it.
That's all we really have to say anyway.
No, we see it now. We're at Agile.
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep it small, so maybe that helps, because I can't see anything when I show it full screen. Okay, well, let me know if I'm literally every time, probably every 2 minutes, I'm changing the slide. You want to see the other one really fast? Or actually, now I'm lost.
Hey, Nicole.
Yeah.
Is it possible to go into full screen mode as well?
I was in that. Can you see it now?
No. We're at train, preaching.
Okay. Can you see Agile methodology?
No.
Yeah, I think the full screen is coming up. I can bring things up. Can you see?
Yeah.
Oh, we see it moving now.
I think it's fine. I think it's fine for now. Yeah, you can send us the slides after the talk so we can go through them again. But yeah, this is fine.
You can't see the slide.
No, we can see them.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, just let me know if you don't know. Okay, so again, Agile, we follow Agile practices here. And some of the things that we do on a daily basis is what we call a daily scrum. I think daily scrums are very important for a lot of reasons. When you're working with a team in India, they'll actually tackle a lot of things on their own and have a lot of impediments that they don't voice. And you can put them into emails, but it's nothing like getting a person in a room to really talk to them. That helps really, bring out what the issues are and work through it immediately. So it's not just this constant every other day back and forth. So daily scrums are really important. We have them both within our UX Austin team, just as a team itself, and then also with the India group at a different time. We also work on a sprint-based development cycle, which basically means we create stuff and we throw it into a sprint, and they get about 10 days to work on it, and then they pop out with something in 10 days, and we look at it. And we say, oh, that's cool. We go back into the next 10-day sprint, work on it, they pop out something. In theory, that's how it's supposed to work. It's always kind of a gamble on what we actually do, but we do work on sprints. And we also have these things called phase zeros, which is part of the Agile principle concepts of when we have an idea of what we want to do, we open up a phase 0. So let's say we wanted to create a mobile app. So that was the need is for cooperating teachers to do something remotely without internet. So we open up a phase 0 to explore that concept. And so phase 0 are really supposed to be just for exploratory concepting, understanding what the different phases of the project might be, really understanding the effort level to put into it, and then at that point we kind of freeze the understanding and we go forth and like implement it and figure out how to do it, what design exactly it is, kind of create the mocks and everything sent into the development. So we do have an agile methodology here. We follow an agile principle. It's TK20 agile is what we call it because it's not really fully agile. A lot of our processes are still waterfall because of the India-Austin teamwork. So we can't constantly change things when we're working at 2 different times. So there's definitely waterfall principles that still happen at TK20. We're not perfect by any means. So enough about kind of who TK20 is. I really want to talk about accessibility today. So I'm assuming everybody has a kind of a understanding of what accessibility is. So I'm not going to go into the details of what actually needs to be accessible. And basically, I'm assuming that you guys know that. So stop me if you don't. But I'll tell you kind of about the past accessibility TK20. Like I mentioned, we didn't do it. We basically built as much as we could, as fast as we could, which is why we have 15 components in our system right now, big components. One of our components is usually what makes a company. We have 15 of these components. So not only do we have a SurveyMonkey form builder style, which Anusha helped out to kick off the form builder project. So yay, Anusha. Matt is still working on it though. Probably will get done in another year. Oh no, did I click something? Hold on just a second. Okay. So we have a very large component, and we didn't care about accessibility. We started thinking about it a couple years ago, but we haven't done anything. So the future, the current, is really working towards flipping the system. So you might hear me mention the old system and the new system, or the fact that we're flipping it, or the fact that it's called Lotus. That's our current name for this release internally. But we're taking all the main components, we're taking all the pages, we're taking everything, and we're trying to achieve a 508 and WCAG 2AA compliancy. Big words, basically means we want users to be able to use our system. And these are the rules that were set forth to follow in order to accomplish that. And so good news is that hopefully in a few months, if that works out, we'll actually have a fully compliant system. So we're very excited about that release because it's going to create a delightful experience for all users. Yay! Carry words. But so what does that really mean? Basically, we are trying to accomplish a system that can be used by all people. And by all people, I mean people that have visual, auditory, physical, speech, cognitive, and neurological disabilities. But anybody. You know, the problem is a lot of people, when they think of accessibility, they think of people who are blind. Well, yeah, there's blind people that use our system, but there's a lot more of other disabilities that affect people. Can they actually use their hand to click? Some people have like these massive mouse balls, and they can't pinpoint a little tiny object on the page. They need big objects to click on because they don't have fine motor skills. Or there's people who are ADHD, like they can't concentrate on anything as they're working through a page that's really busy. They're just going to get lost and overwhelmed in it. There's people who have hearing impediments, which I don't think really applies to us. But there's just people's ability to retain information sometimes. It's just overwhelming when it comes to a website or to an application. And so what we're trying to do is, I mean, granted, that's only 20% of our audience, but 20% when it comes to students and faculty is a pretty big percentage. So we're trying to make it as usable as we can. So yes, we're trying to accomplish like WCAG 2AA and 508 compliancy. More than anything, we're just trying to make the entire system easier to use. And that luckily benefits everybody. You guys seeing my slides move? I'm on trends.
Yes, we can.
So the great thing about accessibility is that all the new trends coming out are making things accessible by nature. So responsive layouts actually help accessibility because things that can move, if you can see it at the 1280 and you can shrink it down to a 360, well, you better have some damn good layout. Because if you don't, it's not going to actually adjust correctly. It's not going to, expand and collapse. So things are getting simpler. Simpler things are easier to understand. Simpler things are easy to move. Grids are being, are very popular. Organic layouts are kind of going away. Now people just want to see information in a grid structure. Perfect for accessibility. All of these things are helping. High contrast colors. Everybody has bold colors. Beautiful. That helps people with color or seeing issues. Bigger fonts. Great. Old people can see it better. Like everything that's happening for the trends of the last couple of years are actually making things accessible by nature, which is it's brilliant. I don't think anybody meant for it to happen, but it's happening. And so even people who don't give a crap about accessibility are becoming more accessible. So that's kind of exciting to watch happen, especially on all websites, because our old designs are just overwhelming and things are just cleaning up. So anyways, I'll stop preaching. Our process right now, like I mentioned, our current project is the Lotus. We call it the UI flip. Because let me show you guys. Actually, I think I need to share my screen differently. So I'm going to stop presenting and share again. Woo! Like that. Can you guys see this like very matrixy? Yes. Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. I love how telling you about
I'll try that again. No! Okay, but sorry. Well, yeah. What you're about to see will make you want to die. I'm just gonna stay here. It's much prettier than when you're right. I'm gonna show them. That's so cool. I'm sorry, I talked forever.
You're deliberately stalling.
I don't know what to do. Are you trying to share?
I
wanted to try to do it like preview Safari. I don't think we can do it on Safari. Just do an entire screen and then you. I did. That's what causes that. Loveliness. Yeah, but once you leave it,
I think if you're out, it's because of something else, not the Google handout.
Yeah. So go to the until you're lost. Okay. So tell me if you guys can see this website. Okay, hold on. Can you see that?
Yes.
So TK20 is kind of log in.
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Yay. It's not going all. Okay. So I'm going to show you the old UI. So look at this beautiful loveliness. This is what it has become. So this is pure UI flip. We've taken every element on the page and just made it prettier. So that's the difference between the current UI and the new UI. But let's actually log in and take a peek inside. This is the old UI, so don't judge. We weren't involved. So here's the current UI. Beautiful. The flip, basically what that means is that current page is now going to look like, look at our animation, guys. Okay, sorry. So this page and this page are exactly the same content. So that's what I mean by UI flip. It is completely changing the look of everything we do. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. We'll come back to this, though, in a little bit. So what is the UI flip? The UI flip, I'm going to kind of go over what we really concentrate on for accessibility. So I'm going to focus on the navigation changes we made and why we made them. I'm going to go over to page layout, like how do we tackle the general accessibility of each page, and then why is consistency so important on actually establishing an accessible system and getting an accessible system. So the first one, navigation. So as you guys can see, I'm going to go back to my browser, so let me know if you're not seeing what I see. So this is our current page structure layout. We have a top navigation, and then we have a sidebar navigation. So the problem is when a user clicks into the navigation, assuming they can click into it, which they actually can't if they're blind, but let's just say they are blind, and I click on a page anywhere I want to go. But right now, if I'm seeing impaired, if I am I can't understand the amount of information being shown to me, can you guys actually tell me where I am in the system if you were just to look at this? There's no hierarchy, understanding that. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, you can? Okay. So you can't, the problem is that it doesn't understand who you are. And so there's no hierarchy. They don't understand that the top navigation is equivalent is basically responding to the side navigation. There's no current, like I'm on sent messages right now. How in this navigation structure do I know that I'm on sent? Like there's nothing in here showing me where I am. So it's just plain bad. So if I flip over to this navigation, if I actually go into messages and I go to sent, the user not only can see where they visually are, like I'm on home and my active state is on sent, you can actually see these dotted lines right here. That is the focus state. So if I actually tab through this structure, the user actually is kept where they are so they know how to navigate further. There's no random bouncing around. So if I actually come through and tab through this UI, you'll notice I'm like right now here on the logo. And I'm tabbing, and I have to tab through all of these elements in order to get into the side menu. So I'm going to tab. That's what I'm tabbing. R15 menu items. But then I finally get to home. But wait, I don't get to home. I get to help. That's weird. So now I'm going to log out and keep going through, tabbing through. Now I'm actually on the menu that I wanted to get to. I'm going to tab again, and I'm slowly going to work my way down to where I want it to be. So in this structure, I'm actually, when I click it, I'm actually already sitting in sent. And so just for accessibility point, like nobody wants to click through this insanity because our structure is so large. And so we've helped in this UI flip to create a visual hierarchy, to create focus states, to create elements that helps the user navigate a little bit quicker. And let me go back to my PowerPoint. So I kind of like, tell me where I am? No idea. Tell me where I am? Hopefully you guys can see where I am. It does help when you're interacting with it to see where you are, but as you can see, again, focus state is kept, visual hierarchy is still there. And so we really focused on these three elements when we flipped to the navigation. So big changes, it helps users considerably. There are some pitfalls to what we've created. It's pretty wonky. Our page loads in a very odd way. Things kind of just happen. It's kind of fun to figure out where you're going in life. But these are, unfortunately, things that we have to keep because of the old system. So technically, if a user clicks on a main navigation, you wouldn't assume that another navigation would come down, and then it would focus onto my courses. So we have these really wonky landing pages. So if you click on courses, the landing page is inside of courses, my courses. Very odd. And we actually even let the users to find their landing page. So if they wanted to, someone can make, for the institution, the landing page grade assignment. We can't control that. And that's just because TK20 is really good at saying yes to everybody, which is a bad thing. So enough on navigation. You guys have any questions on the navigation changes that we made and why?
I have a question on the UI flip.
Okay.
It's doing the matrix thing again, but no, I can see you now. But so in terms of just trying to like, I guess, make everyone happy in terms of like accessibility, like what are some of the challenges that you guys have in trying to balance out like, oh, visually, pleasing, but at the same time, accessible to all these kinds of different populations?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. It's actually, it's definitely something we battle with between ourselves and our team because we have both interaction designers and then we also have visual designers, and of course and I'm a visual designer by trade, and so I like my things pretty. And they want things to work beautifully, and then we also have development actually has to be able to code it. And so when we're really working on trying to find a good medium for design and accessibility, an accessible design is really coming when if you can go into a project knowing that you want to be accessible, you're actually able to start to structure your changes and your ideas towards being accessible. The problem that we have is that we got this whole entire system that's created. We can't change the user flow. We have a lot of things that just really keep us back from doing the right choices. And so more than anything, it's really concentrating on can 80% of the audience understand where they are, and how can we step back and make that accessible? That's a very bad practice. You should actually think, I want to be accessible. I'm going to go and design towards an accessible design that is also user-friendly. But we don't get that privilege. We have to take kind of the structure we already have and all the nuances that come with it and try to put accessibility into that. And so what we have done in a lot of cases is we've actually used our code, our screen reader text titles, our HTML pieces and snippets, and forced users to where we want them to go. Very bad practice. But that's how we accomplish a lot of our accessibility, is that we actually now force our users to go where they should be going. They should be able to organically work through a workflow on their own and be able to accomplish a task. But because, again, of our old system and what we have to work for, we do force our users around the page, especially if they're using the keyboard.
We've tested it, so.
Yeah, we have tested it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're not running, hi guys, we're not running completely blind. We have actually done some tests, particularly with a user using a screen reader, which was, by the way, very, very interesting. I can go into that later. But I just wanted to say, like, it's not a matter of, well, we have to work in these constraints. You can still, make sure at least what you're doing, even if it's not best practices, you can still make sure that it's doing the right thing for the user through another method. So more of a validation than a let's design it.
Yeah, we do a lot about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go into another element that we worked on from the accessibility standpoint, and that's really page structure. So Perry picked out this lovely beast, which is we call the section data form uploads. I'm not going to explain it because it's painful and horrible, but the idea is they're trying to upload something, map it to where they want it to be associated, and go. Yeah. That's the simplest form I can say. So as you get to this page, I'm going to log into this page so you can see all its beauty. Maybe. And then that one.
Yeah, got logged out.
No, I think that's being boring. Okay, data form uploads. Not that.
So here's clue number one that not even we know how to do.
Yeah. Good. Oh, guys, this is the painful part. I'll get there. Just a second. Okay, so this is the page that
We can't see the screen.
now.
We're
We have is uploaded an element, and we have to align it to something. So I'm going to magically click on the
Hi, we
drop
can't
downs
see your screen.
to see if it's mapped or not. And I can't select the same one because it was mapped ready.
Hold on a second.
I'm sorry, do you guys have something?
We can't see your screen.
Oh, no. Well, that's probably good. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So we have these drop downs that are saying we have to select what we want to map it to, and then this lovely key over here, which by the way, can't be tabbed to. So somebody who is blind, let me tab to this. Give me a few minutes.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see her tab.
Can you see the blue outlines?
Oh yeah.
Right here?
Yeah, we can't. We can see the blue outlines.
Okay, so this is what a computer sees and has to do.
So scrolling down the page.
They're going. Yeah, I'm almost there, guys. Okay, so don't blink because I'm about to bounce. So as a user, I managed to get to data form upload. I'm on step one. It actually has a keyboard trigger here for step one, which is awesome. But the problem is now I push tab, and it goes. Where does it go? It's gone. Okay, it comes down to outcomes. So the user who's tabbing through this has actually missed the entire alignment process. They never even got to select this, so they don't even know it exists. They instead come to outcomes, which is like by far the last thing that the user needs to do right now. And that's because, again, we had no idea of how we wanted to make it accessible. And so not only does the user not see it, if they were blind, they wouldn't even know it was here, which is really scary.
Something would have probably given up having to go through all the tabs of every application anyway.
So I'm going to bounce over to the new UI and kind of show you. It's not final, so it's going to be some weirdness to it, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. Okay, so I'm in here. So I am. There we go. Okay, so you can see I'm in here. It's kind of hard to see on this UI because we kind of turned it off. But right now I'm on basic one on my tab. And my next step is actually triggered on the not maps. So it's not accessible. There we go. So I'm actually walking through this. So so basically the way that the structure works is the user, when they first came to this element, they can see the wizard, and then it jumps past the actual titles because they know that they're on data 2 mapping. They get to read the text, and then they jump into this checkbox on this drop down. So the user has actually walked through the process that a visual user would have walked through. And so the reason why I'm showing this is that the difference between not only how we code it, so even if the user was to be able to tab through the title and tab through the buttons, which is the last thing that they need to do, it's not the first thing, it's the last thing, but they're going to be tabbing through it, then they would tab through here, then they would get a repeat of the name, then they get a repeat of the name, then they would actually just see that it's required, and then finally they're actually going to get the text that they need to see. If this actually was coded right, this is the process the user would have to take. That's pretty painful. In this case, we've actually just allowed the user to jump from data mapping, jump to data alignment, jump to the text, and then dive right in. So the understanding of what the user needs to know is where am I, what am I doing, and let's go do it. And so here it's like, it's not the fact that we've really brilliantly done anything as far as layout, but what we've allowed the user to basically work through a user flow. How we've structured the content, where we've placed elements, is helping a user make their way through if they're tabbing through it. And even visually, you actually can see the hierarchy. So it helps all users in this case. And then let me bounce back to my PowerPoint. Can you guys see my PowerPoint? I'm assuming. Okay. Data form upload. So what did we do? We focused on hierarchy. That really is what does the user need to be actually, where does their eye need to be triggering? What workflow they need to be going through it. It also has to do with colors. We have kept our colors very consistent in our UI so that throughout the pages they know what the colors mean. Tab indexes, this is code. I've actually had to add tab indexes to where I wanted the user to go so that they're actually able to navigate through it. And then additionally, just an understandable progress for our focus states. So when a user does a task, focus basically means when I do something, where does my tab now, where does my mouse actually end, my actual click state stop? Right now it bounces you in our old system. When I conduct a task, I'm actually sometimes forcing the user to the focus state they should now be in so they can continue their activity. Questions? So is that confusing? I don't know if that makes sense. But you guys have questions?
Any questions? No? You can continue.
Let me know if I'm going too fast or if it doesn't make sense. So the last one I'm going to go over is consistency. And actually, this is probably the biggest thing when it comes to accessible design is consistency. Whether or not you're whether you can actually see what you're looking at, or if you can't, hierarchy and consistency is really important. Because if a user gets to know a website, they can work through it a lot faster. And if you continually change the layout and continually change where things are on a page, every user, including the people who have disabilities, they have a really hard time understanding where to go. So the #1 effort that's happening in the Lotus is consistency. We are making everything look the same. All our tables are styled the same. All our buttons are in the same place. Everything the user should know once they've been in the application a couple times. They get to know the UI. So they don't have to do a hunt. Right now in our system, these buttons are different colors. Our old system, buttons are different colors. Sometimes the actual actions are at the top. Sometimes they're only at the bottom. Sometimes our wizards are in old style. Sometimes they're in a new style. Sometimes our tables have these crazy little tab things going on. Sometimes they're actually in a full width table. Everything is crazy. You can bounce to another section where the entire layout is completely different. Let me show you this loveliness document room. So document room was developed, and now it's like this tree structure. If you go in and try to create documents in your tree structure, what's that horrible layout I'm looking for? Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to give the user folders. Why? For shits and grins. We can go into these pages, and now look, there's a random accordion menu and icons I've never seen in my life before. I come over to field experience. And okay, table, got that. Oh, look, here's a completely new search I've never seen in my life. And, I come over to export. No, look, there's a new style for a wizard. Great. Everything is different. Yeah. And so with our new UI, we have created a document or a website that's called Deb. I'm going to give you guys a peek at it. And this is really we created basically a document that allows us to give one consistent style that's used everywhere. So if I go into components, this Deb stands for Developers Online User Guide. Yeah, UI guide, sorry. Developers Online UI Guide. But I can come to accordions, and here's an accordion. Guess what? That accordion used everywhere. All accordions look the same. Breadcrumbs. Here's an example of breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs look exactly the same. Buttons. Buttons are in a footer. They're always in a footer. They don't go anywhere. We have a lot of buttons, as you can see. It's kind of embarrassing. Mm-hmm. File trees. All of our file trees look the same. It's a file tree. And guess what? Our buttons are at the top. And guess where our buttons are for our table? It's at the top. Let me show you. It's the most amazing thing ever. Oh, not that one. 4. Well, that's good. There you go. Damn. Buttons. They're all along the top. They all look the same. Consistency is so important. It actually is kind of crazy when you look at our old UI. We have 22 icons for remove, delete. So there's like 22 different trash cans styling. On the new UI, guess what? Our trash can looks like that everywhere. It looks like that. And so it's really, when it comes to accessibility, it really just comes down to, can the user identify icons? Can they identify structure? Can they identify layout? Can they identify tables? Can they identify how to navigate in the same place every time? And so our system is becoming accessible just by doing good design. So it's actually pretty easy. So location, color, wording, layout. It is really how we're accomplishing our accessibility. So let's see. Do you guys want more examples, or do you want to kind of just open it up for discussion because I'm running out of time?
We can open it up for discussion.
Okay. This is probably the last thing that is kind of interesting, is things to avoid. So one of the things that I would tell, if you're trying to create an accessible design, the top things to ask yourself, or not to do, don't do, is these items. So hover states, they're not accessible, don't do them. If your design is focusing on an interaction being in a hover state, you're doing it wrong. It's not going to be able to be accessible. Organic layouts, what I mean by that is grids and layout structures. Everything needs to be structured. It cleans it up. I mean, yeah, you can take a crazy user, like independent flow design, print heavy design, and make it accessible, but why the hell would you do that? Just give it a grid. So there's a lot of things like just layout based that will help accessibility without even coding it differently. We call these the magical appearing elements. So sometimes when a user clicks on something, something just shows, and now they have access to it. That's not accessible. So don't make things magically appear. Lack of hierarchy, elements incorrectly, using elements incorrectly. Basically, what that means is sometimes if you're trying to make a headline, the headline for that code is headline. Just use an H2. Don't try to create a new class style for it, because then it's not accessible. And then icons without screen reader text. We've got all these buttons up here that have no text. They are just icons. So to someone who can't see and they click on it, they're not going to get any name. So we have to actually add to our code an SR tag, which basically tells a person who can't read this what exactly it is. So if I'm tagging to this, yeah, I'm going to know it's going to say button remove to somebody who can't see or who's using, something like JAWS. So anytime you're actually just using a visual element, you have to know, you need to know that when you're going to code it, you're going to have to put a lot more work into it, because there's no way for the user to understand that that icon is something unless you add all this extra stuff to it to make it accessible to keyboard users. So I'll shut up. You guys can ask questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your talk. Do you guys have questions?
Hi, I'm Jian Pin. I have one question. My question is, how do you test out if your site is accessible? And also, do you bring in people with special needs?
Yeah, good question.
Catch the first or second question. I caught the second question.
Yeah.
Say the first question. I can really hear you now.
How do you test out if your site is accessible? Yeah, and
Okay.
do you bring in people with special needs?
Okay, yeah. So right now we have one person on our team who we call our accessibility expert. She is honestly learning it along with us. She has a passion for accessibility. A lot of her roommates are, she has roommates that are deaf and, seeing impaired. So she really has kind of like a passion for accessible design. So she does a lot of research on it herself, and she understands how a user tabs through at its very basic about its very basic style. So like just tabbing is one thing. So most users don't just push tab, 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 and use their keyboard. A lot of times they're using some kind of program like JAWS. So Lahua, who is the accessibility girl, she can't use JAWS like an actual blind person can use JAWS. People who have been using JAWS for years are so amazing. You should all Google on YouTube or whatever how to watch somebody who's blind use an iPad. Freaking brilliant. Or Google or YouTube how watch somebody on JAWS. The way it works is just amazing. They are able to actually get through a website faster than a person who can see. So I'm not answering your question, but how we do it and how we understand it as basic understanding, like how does an SR tag equate to a tab structure for a user on a keyboard, that helps us a lot. But additionally, we have tested people on JAWS. Yeah, it was JAWS. So for those of you guys who don't know, JAWS is a screen reader. For those of you with Macs, isn't there like a native screen reader that They all have them, yeah.
Windows has one now?
Yeah, you can actually get them for almost all of them.
Oh, yay! So screen reader basically is just what it says. It reads the text out loud. So if you went through our system, you might think it sounds like home, messages, this navigation, that one, but it's so fast that when we tested with someone who's blind, he used it so quickly that he actually had to translate it for us. It sounded like nonsense. It was just like, and he was like, oh, okay, so this is a file. This is I don't even know. This is a save button, and I'm like, I'm glad you know where you are. So, yeah. But if you guys ever want to play with it, you can Google something like screen reader demo, and there's actually demo websites where if you put your headphones on, you can actually hear it, and the screen is blank, and it will actually read it out to you. And it's like, it gives you a task, like navigate this website.
If you have a Mac, there's actually one built into the Mac that actually is really good. If you don't have a Mac, Chrome has one that's built into the browser. That's really good. It's free, and you can test it out. So we do a lot of internal testing we test it ourselves, but we have had we need to just make sure that JAWS works. We have JAWS in our actual we actually have JAWS at TK20, so we can test on JAWS, but I don't think it's a very good use of our time, considering we have no idea how to use JAWS, like the person who knows how to use JAWS. So that's been the case for like Stephanie, where we actually bring in a couple. No, we don't bring them in. We actually do it through GoToMeeting, right?
So, GoToMeeting is not accessible. we do remote usability testing here a lot, and we usually use GoToMeeting screen sharing. So we can see the person on the other end. We can see they can see our screen, and they can actually interact with our prototype. GoToMeeting is not accessible, so what we had to do was we had to make a public URL temporary. We had to have this guy access it, and then we actually had him play his screen reader over a speakerphone. And then we had both of our two front-end developers. One of them was Lahua, our accessibility expert, and they actually had the code pane open in the browser, and so they were looking through it as he was translating it for us. The tester was translating it for us. So it was kind of a weird setup, but it ended up working really well. It was a really good experience, I think, and I would love to actually do it in person so I can see sort of what's going on their screen, but there's no accessible screen reader software, so that was a pain. But
awesome. You have other questions? We have someone with a question.
Oh yeah,
She's coming.
hey
There you
guys.
are.
You mentioned early on you do these daily scrums, but I don't think you really got into what that entails. Can you talk a
Yeah.
little about what that is?
Okay, yeah, so I actually, I can tell you, so basically the way daily scrum should work is that at the concept of a scrum, and you can use the term, we actually call them our daily dance parties. We don't actually dance in them, but they're just, basically they have to happen every day. And they can be pretty painful, especially if things are, like we're working on Lotus, like we're still working on Lotus, we'll be working on Lotus for the next year. So the idea of a scrum is to list your impediments. You come to it, and it's not about, you to tell you about how your dog was that evening, and that you're drinking coffee and the machine's not working. The idea is to go over your project details. Like, okay, I am currently, for example, my scrum for today would be, I'm finishing a PowerPoint for, what's y'all's school's name? Yeah, something. But if I just tell them what I'm doing, like I'm gonna finish PowerPoint, I'm gonna work on meeting minutes, I'm gonna go and do employee evaluations, I'm gonna go do blah. That's not how you do a scrum. A scrum is, I can't figure out how to get moved to folder to be understood by the engagement group. I need to figure out my impediment of how to share this impediment that I'm having within the team. And Matt's working on NG reports, which doesn't mean anything to you guys. But he's not going to tell us, I'm working on NG reports. He's going to say that I am finishing a prototype to share with a client, who I can't mention, sorry, to share with a client, and I'm currently working with Dana to figure out XYZ problems. It's about your impediments. It's about what you need help from. The idea is that the entire team can hear your impediments, and you can be like, ooh, I'm going to help you with that, or let's have a meeting. Let's go talk about this at this point. It's not about talking about it at that minute, but it's to now coordinate all the impediments the team has and to be able to step out of the scrum and move forward with your impediments and find solutions for them. Sometimes it includes reviewing designs. Sometimes it's about talking about the code that's currently in progress. So if there's a sprint going on, what is happening in that sprint? Sometimes it's about talking about, what is the priorities for that day. Really, what a scrum is, in short, I'm making this really long, is to get everybody in one room and to talk about anything in very you literally get 1 minute to say your projects. So in very short detail, what impediments do you have? What you need to do moving forward, and then just move on. Like it's not about the details. It's only about what needs to be accomplished. The way we do scrums and locally is we actually just do it out on our floor. Everybody will will join kind of in a circle-ish style. They're also called stand-ups. You hear a lot of people talk about daily stand-ups. So we're usually not standing, we're too lazy. But everybody kind of gets in a big group, and we just work around the room. So one person talks for about a minute, the next person talks for about a minute. And of course, you have to have these pretty structured because sometimes our stand-ups last for an hour because we're bullshitting the whole time. Technically, you shouldn't be doing that during your scrum, but it's kind of fun. But does that answer daily scrums? They're really just more impediment reviews and kind of like a very quick,
Yeah, so it's just the design team.
No, so we will work directly with customer advocates, they're supposed to be the voice of the users. Development will be in there. It's actually very important to have the entire team in these because I might be having an impediment with the back-end person, and it's really important for me to be able to talk to that person so I can get a meeting right then and there. Or if I'm having an impediment with a workflow, the customer advocates can say, hey, let's have a meeting. I can help you solve this impediment. So it's not, you can have them within your team. We have UX stand-ups. They're the ones that last longer because we have a tendency to blab on about random shit. But more importantly, the ones that are really most effective is the fact that they're with the entire pod, the entire set of teams that are working together.
Awesome. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Derek. I just did an interview with some UX designers from a company that does enterprise software. And they kind of talked about like the difficulties that they're having getting the company to realize the importance behind user experience design. So I was wondering if you could kind of talk about some of the strategies that your team used to get the rest of the company on board and kind of get them to realize why this overhaul was so important.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're doing the best because I think we're having the same problem. But it actually, when I first came to TK20, they had no idea what design was. They literally thought their old UI was beautiful. They thought it was user friendly. They thought it looked great. Everything. It was horrifying. They thought it was okay to have 20 buttons for delete. They thought it was okay to not be able to accomplish a task in under an hour. It was bad. So when I came on board, I kind of joined. I wasn't initially supposed to be in UX. I was the creative director, and then I kind of got drug in because I had something to say about a button, which was my number one mistake. I should have kept my mouth shut. But when I spoke up, and I was just like, why do we have? And I used the delete because that's what got me into this process. Why are you asking me which delete to choose from on this page? A delete is a delete. And so when I started learning about the bad practices and the lack of knowledge about UX, it was overwhelming. So I started researching online, oh my God, am I the only person who's going through hell? It turns out almost all companies are going through this. And I think more than anything, it's because UX is a very new field. People have always talked about it, but the fact that you guys are learning about this, I love your school. I love the people coming out of it because it's fucking ingenious. I would love to have gone through your program, but I didn't. But I think the understanding of what UX is still developing. Like, why are you guys here? Like, interaction designers? Why can't I use UI designers? Why can't I use graphic designers? It's just, the idea of it is still so new. That's why all these companies are having this problem. So the tools that I used was, I'm really good at nagging, perfect wife. I will nag the hell out of you. I will remind you over and over and over. And even if I'm meeting you in the hallway, I'm like, hey, did you hear what I just told you 5 minutes ago? I'm going to remind you. And it's amazing what nagging can do. There's definitely, you've got to figure out how much nagging you can do and who to nag to and the right tools. But the number one thing about spreading UX is getting to know everybody in the entire team. How I talk to product management, how I talk to a developer, how I talk to the president, how I talk to these people are all different because what they want is not the same. The development team does not want to hear about sales figures. The sales team does not want to know about what code and how it's going to affect a user who's tabbing through it. So getting to know who you're talking to, your audience, and being able to figure out how to steer your discussion and what you're telling them is really important. So when I talk to the president, I'm not going to remind them about all of the nuances that we're currently affecting. What I'm going to say is, you're losing sales because of XYZ. UX is fixing XYZ, and we're going to be able to deliver this, and this is what we're going to be able to measure our results from. And then Boopy's all of a sudden, the president's name is Boopy. All of a sudden he's like, really? Like, I want more money. Tell me how you're going to help me. Yeah, that's how UX is here. We're here to help you make more money. But then I'm not going to go to development and say, hey, I'm making you more money. I'm going to say, I'm going to make your front end easier to use. I'm going to improve your processes because we're going to do it in an easier way. So instead of having 25 pages to accomplish a task, I'm going to give you 2. It's going to be brilliant. And it's only going to be 2 pages to maintain. So it's all about how you talk to that person. Like project management, they don't want to hear about all of that crap. They want to know how you can do it faster. They want to know how you can meet their release time. Well, great thing about UX, it's about cutting all that shit out and making it easier. But we're going to have less things to do. We're going to make it easier for you. So it is a battle, and it's painful and horrible, but it's actually manageable. We have come a long ways. We have come from the idea that they thought they knew what design was to giving them a new UI, and all of a sudden they're shitting their britches because it looks awesome. And there's like, whoa, I can actually get through a task in 2 steps. Brilliant. Yeah. And by the way, you only have to develop 2 pages. It's definitely worth fighting for because the product is amazing and it's easier and it's quicker. But I can't tell you I know how to actually do it because we're still doing it. We're still trying to figure out how does UX have a say. People are still trying to figure out what the hell do we do? Like, Stephanie, who is this person and why is she here? Like she's doing the tests. Like what does that mean? Like what are we gonna do with that information? It's like she gives reports and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a report that tells us things. Crazy. Now we know what to do. Brilliant. So it's a battle. It's definitely a crazy battle.
It's a matter of like, I think Nicole kind of touched on this. Sorry, but you have to prove that you can win. It's kind of like Nicole was saying, like you have to prove you can win. You can say, here's a usability report. Here's everything that was wrong with this design. Now we can fix it. We found already where our users are going to be confused. And that's like, whoa, now we totally won. But then it's another matter of keeping your happiness up when you have those wins. It can get really tedious. I'm just telling this to you guys because I was where you were a year ago. And one of the questions that I always ask people was, what is it like going into industry from school? You get beat down, you just gotta get back up. That's the truth of it, and I've talked to a lot of other alumni who have the same part. I don't know what to ask this question, but it's my favorite question to ask. So just keep trying, don't give up, prove that you can win, you know what you're doing, more than you think, so. Sorry, we'll have the conversation back.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I guess maybe like the last question since we have like a minute left. Just like what do you love about your team and working at TK20?
What do I love about my team? I love everything about my team. I love my team. I personally put them together. I hired every single one of them. They are my babies. And why do I like TK20? I like my team. My team is what keeps me here. And so I think, I'm one of those people that I want to be able to come to work and have fun. Like I like a fun experience. I like to be happy coming to work, or I'm just going to quit. And this team keeps me happy. They are a great team. I mean, God, you guys are amazing. I mean, I keep hiring out of your school because you guys are all really awesome, and I'd love to meet all of you guys and learn about how to hire you all because you guys are brilliant. On top of that, I used to be a teacher, so the other half of my team are actually my old students. There's personalities I like, and I hire them. I love young people. I love the fact that you guys come with grand ideas, things that you think you can change the world, and that's amazing, and I'm going to beat that out of you. No, I don't really actually try to. I'm totally agree with that. The number one thing to think about, and I feel like sometimes I'm like the bubble popper, and that's my job, but the idea is it's really, you never know the whole story, and you will not know the whole story when you're coming in as a new person, because your job is to be an interaction designer, and the problem is you might be trying to accomplish a really great thing, but there's all these other problems that are forcing that not to happen. And so, like Stephanie said, don't lose faith. It's not personal. It's just, I feel like, don't cry. It's just it's just the fact that there's things that you just can't change. And so you just really have to, find a way to work through them and know that the little changes really do matter to the user, and just keep the ideas that you're trying to help the end user and that you can't do everything. But besides my team at TK20, what I really like is this company is small enough and still in a startup mentality that we're really able to tackle anything. The amount of change that we've made at TK20 just within our team to the entire company is amazing. We're able to do almost anything. We're able to go to any meeting we want to. We're willing to voice our ideas, and we actually are listened to. So even though we have a really big battle, people are willing to hear us out. But this is the reason why I stay. I think this, I don't know. I think these people, that's why I'm here.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for taking your time. I'm Kazai, by the way. I'm the person you've been emailing. Thank you for taking your time to talk to us and us learning about accessibility at TK20, and it was nice meeting the whole team. So thank you guys.